Welcome to the Play Resource Inspiration channel. Today we're going to cast a face using plaster and Mod-Roc. For this you will need from the Play Resource shop Mod-Roc, plaster, clay, acrylic paint, brushes and some scissors. And from the scrap store, some plastic containers. And from your local shop, some vaseline, a bowl and a knife. So we're going to begin by allowing Bridget to add a thin layer of vaseline to her face. This is just petroleum jelly. Bridget will add this all over her face. We'll keep the eyes closed from there on in. Bridget's happy enough for me to apply this today without using any breathing aids. What you can do is insert 2 straws up your nostrils or a thin tube of card into the mouth just to allow breathing. But it'll distort the image slightly that you create, so it's, if your model's willing, it's much better just to do the cast in this way. So now we're going to add a wee bit extra to Bridget's eyebrows just to make sure none of these hairs come away when we're taking our cast off. Throughout all of this process, it's really important that you reassure your model, tell them exactly what you're doing. It's important that Bridget stays still throughout this process, so just make her feel totally at ease and comfortable. So now we're ready to begin our casting. So we'll begin by cutting up some Mod-Roc in some small pieces and some large pieces. The smaller pieces we'll use first, and these would be small enough, I think, to begin with. We'll dip this into some water. It'll be immersed in the water for a few seconds, and when we take it out, we'll squeeze the excess water out using 2 fingers, just very gently, and then we can apply it to the face. If we begin in the middle of the face and work our way outwards. That is probably all that we're going to cover, so I'm ready to put my second layer on now in thicker pieces, so you can actually double these bigger pieces. The second 2 layers really are just to reinforce the strength of the cast. And we don't go too far onto the chin. It's important that this cast just lifts straight off. You don't want it snagging on anything. Okay, Bridget? That's going to take about 5 minutes just to set for you, and then we can take it off. So our plaster's hardened now and we're ready to take it off Bridget's face. If Bridget just wiggles her face underneath the cast there and loosens it off gently, I'm going to just very gently go around the edges and slightly press it away. The little holes left by the nostrils we can cover with a wee bit of extra Mod-Roc on the outside of the cast. So there's our little nose and mouth covered. And then we're just going to build up the chin area so that we have a vessel to pour the plaster into. Now this again will take a couple of minutes to set, but that means we can pour our plaster into this without it flowing out. So now we're ready to cast from our mould. Before we begin to pour our plaster, we need to put a barrier between the plaster that we're pouring and the plaster that is in the Mod-Roc. We're going to make up a small amount of clay slip. We add a bit of clay to a little bit of water and mash it up until it's kind of a creamy consistency. And we're going to paint that to the inside of the cast. This will allow the cast to separate from the mould that we're using. So there we go. If we leave that to dry for a few minutes, then we're ready to mix our plaster. We have a bowl with some water in it here. We're going to add the plaster to it in little handfuls until little islands begin to appear on the surface of the water. So that's probably enough plaster. We'll start to mix that. There shouldn't be too many lumps. So we're going to use a small tub to pour our plaster into our mould. We have our little tub. And first of all, we'll put a small amount in and swirl it around. And what we're going to do is just gently allow that to go up to the edges. And we'll let this thicken for a minute or 2. And we're going to use these 2 pieces of clay that we can wedge into our mould to help it stay in place. And we can pour the remaining plaster in. Okay, so now we can leave that to set for an hour. And now our plaster is set and we're ready to remove our plaster bandage. We'll gently start to prise it away from the edges first of all, and then gradually into the centre of the cast, pulling it all away. You can take it off a layer at a time, or sometimes it all comes away at once. It's just go gently until you've got it all away. And here we have Bridget's face. We can rinse away the clay that may be still on the surface of the cast. and using a knife you can take away any plaster particles that are there that you wish to remove. And now we are ready to paint our cast. Today we're going to use some acrylic paints. I'm going to use some black for a base coat and some silver to do some highlighting with. You can use poster paint instead, or you could maybe choose not to paint it at all and leave it as it is. And so we're highlighting with a bit of silver paint here, and we'll dry brush this off. Just blending the two colours. And that's our cast finished. So these are some other casts that we've made using the same technique. This pig has been cast in plaster, but we cast this in two sections. You can see the seam running up here, so it was joined together along this line. This other head has been presented on a plinth. This is just a piece of dowel rod that we've drilled into the area under the chin and glued it down. And this is a bronze cast. This has been taken a stage further. You can explore this with your local foundry. So this is now a much more permanent piece of artwork. All the materials that we've used today are available at Play Resource.